Welcome back, everyone, to the F1 Blogs Deep Dive. Formula One is back. After that, well, it felt like a bit of a pause, didn't it? But the engines are firing up again, and we are heading to the legendary Spa circuit. Stakes feel pretty high.
They really do.
So today our mission is to really unpack what's been happening as the season gets going again. We'll dig into some critical points for Ferrari and Red Bull, definitely, and then maybe a look at the talent coming through in F2. It's about figuring out what really matters as we head back to the track.
Yeah, it's a moment I think a lot of people in F1 were looking forward to, that sort of mini break after a pretty relentless start.
Absolutely.
But, just because it seems quiet on the surface, it rarely is behind the scenes, is it? There's always stuff going on in development strategy.
No doubt. And speaking of things going on, let's jump straight into Ferrari, because they've had this persistent issue, haven't they, with the car's ride height. Our sources are saying they've really battled to get the car consistently in that sweet spot, especially like high-speed corners, heavy fuel.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw the results, didn't we? The plank wear issues.
Right, even Lewis Hamilton's disqualification back in China. The car just hasn't been running where they ideally want it.
That's the heart of it. They couldn't run it as low as they needed to, performance-wise, without hitting those plank problems. So, yeah, performance left on the table.
So what's the fix? They've got this big upgrade coming.
Yeah, a highly anticipated rear suspension upgrade.
Right.
And it's not just, one simple part. It sounds quite involved, changes to the mechanical side, a geometry shift, and importantly, changes to the damping at the rear.
Okay.
And what's interesting is how it connects back to earlier changes they made, cockpit, gearbox, which apparently limited the space they had for the kind of damping they really wanted. So this is kind of unlocking that potential.
So it's part of a bigger picture, not just a standalone fix. What should we actually expect, though? I mean, the sources seem pretty clear. It's not going to be a magic bullet. No sudden transformation overnight.
It's exactly right. No magic bullet. The main goal isn't suddenly finding half a second. It's more about unlocking maybe a little bit more performance by letting them run the car closer to the ground consistently without that plank risk.
Okay.
But maybe even more crucial than that small performance step is the driver confidence aspect.
Right.
Giving Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton more confidence, more feel.
Right, because if they trust the call,
they can push it right to the edge.
Yeah.
And, even if it's just a tenth a lap that a driver finds because they feel totally connected to the car, that can add up significantly over a race.
Yeah.
That's the difference between fighting midfield and fighting for a podium sometimes.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And we've actually seen that play out this season, haven't we? Like, Sauber earlier on. Nico Hülkenberg was really struggling in dirty air. Then they brought a small upgrade, seemed to help the balance, boost his confidence, and suddenly he was performing much better.
Yeah, or think about Alonso at Imola. It wasn't a huge headline upgrade, but it gave him better feel, and his qualifying improved quite a bit.
It really shows that driver confidence isn't just some vague thing. It's actually measurable performance.
It absolutely is. And this Ferrari upgrade, while it's obviously for this year, it's got bigger implications, hasn't it? Looking beyond 2025.
How so?
Well, okay, the championship this year, probably out of reach. Let's be realistic. But fighting for podiums, maybe pinching a win, that's vital for Ferrari. It shows they can develop the car mid-season, keep pushing forward.
Right. Proves the development path.
Exactly. And maybe more importantly, the understanding they gain from fixing this mechanical issue now. That feeds directly into the 2026 car design under the new rules. Understanding the mechanics, addressing these weaknesses, it's fundamentals, like a test bed for 26, really.
Interesting way to look at it.
In Spa, high speed, high throttle, and then Budapest later. Very different track. There'll be excellent tests for this whole new package.
Okay, but Ferrari still have that Q3 issue that seems to pop up. Pace seems to drop off sometimes. How does this new upgrade, plus the whole sprint weekend format, play into that? Especially at Spa, high throttle, maybe that engine overheating thing people suspected.
Yeah, it's a tricky combination. They did do some running promotional days, Fiorano Maranello.
Yeah.
About 200 kilometers total, so we got some initial data.
But not real setup work.
Not really, no. Not on proper tires, not real-world conditions.
Yeah.
But, F1 teams aren't going in totally blind with upgrades these days. They have massive amounts of factory testing simulators.
Sure, yeah.
And the sprint format, while it limits practice, the Parc Fermé rules do allow changes after the sprint race on Saturday, so they get another chance to tweak things for Sunday.
Ah, okay. That's a key point.
Yeah. And Ferrari have actually looked pretty comfortable in the sprints this year, haven't they?
Yeah.
The real test, I think, will be the Sunday race pace, the long runs.
Okay, right. Let's shift gears a bit then, from Ferrari's car stability to the strategic side of things on track. Because Pirelli's thrown a bit of a curveball for Spa, haven't they? With the tires?
They have indeed. A very interesting choice. They're bringing the C1, the C3, and the C4 compounds.
So skipping the C2?
Exactly. There's a gap between the hard and the medium.
Yeah.
And that's the first time we've seen that since, what, Australia 2022, I think?
Wow. Why do that?
Well, the hope, pretty clearly, is to shake up the strategies. Try and push teams towards a two-stop race. We've seen a lot of one-stoppers this season, maybe too many.
Make things less predictable.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We did see a two-stopper win at Spa last year, but this gap between the compounds should make it a much more likely, or at least a more seriously considered option for everyone. Forces teams to really think.
And doing this on a sprint weekend adds another layer of complexity, doesn't it? Because they have fewer tires overall.
Oh, absolutely. One less set of tires for the whole weekend. Plus, you've got the mandatory compounds for the sprint qualifying mediums for SQ1 and SQ2, softs for SQ3. So teams have really tough choices. They only get, what, 4 sets of mediums for the whole weekend. If you think about a two-stop race on Sunday, using maybe 2 sets of mediums.
It doesn't leave many for practice or the sprint quali.
Exactly. You've only got 2 sets left for Friday practice, maybe SQ1, SQ2. Do you risk not running a medium in practice? Or do you compromise your potential race strategy? It forces gambles.
And that's before you even factor in the classic Spa weather uncertainty.
Don't even start. Yeah, add potential rain into that mix, which Spa loves to do, and your carefully planned tire strategy can go out the window in an instant. It could be quite chaotic tactically.
Right, okay. Now, for the topic that's going to dominate the off-track discussion, I expect, the huge changes at Red Bull.
The elephant in the room.
Christian Horner's departure. From Red Bull Racing, from Racing Bulls. It's massive.
It is. And immediately, everyone asks the question about Max Verstappen, don't they? His future beyond, say, 2026, 2027.
What are the sources saying about that?
Well, it seems there are sort of 2 sides to the Horner exit coin regarding Max. On one side, it removes a source of friction, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially, thinking about Jos Verstappen. That's been an undercurrent.
Okay.
But the massive but is you lose that immense knowledge, that leadership, the guy who basically oversaw all of Red Bull's success in F1. That's a huge void.
So where does that leave Max?
Well, the word is his current thinking is pretty clear. He's not making any sudden moves for 2026. He wants to see how Red Bull reshapes itself, what the direction is. He knows jumping too early is a massive risk with new regulations coming. You could end up stuck in the wrong place.
Makes sense. Which brings us to the new boss, Lauren MEKIES. What's the expectation there? Seems like a very different style to Horner.
Very different, yeah. The expectation is definitely shift. More corporate, maybe less direct or confrontational with the press, generally calmer.
Fewer sound bites, perhaps.
Probably fewer headline-grabbing sound bites, yes. And likely a period of him just settling in, assessing things. It's an incredibly tough job, stepping into Horner's shoes.
Huge pressure.
Immense. And his #1 task, arguably above everything else, has to be securing Max Verstappen's commitment for the long term.
That's the absolute priority.
Absolutely. Beyond that, he needs to get the whole team aligned, address any, background whispers about infrastructure or the engine project for 2026. He needs to show a really clear, compelling path forward.
And deal with rivals trying to destabilize them, presumably.
Oh, yeah. That's part of the game, isn't it? Rival teams will definitely see this as an opportunity to maybe poach staff or just create uncertainty. That's something Horner was, frankly, brilliant at managing. MEKIES' experience at Ferrari dealing with that intense pressure cooker environment under Fred Vasseur, that's going to be vital now.
And what about Yuki Tsunoda? Over at Racing Bulls, things seem a bit tough for them lately. Is MEKIES' arrival good or bad for him?
Initially, probably good news for Yuki. MEKIES knows him well. They've worked together closely before at AlphaTauri, Racing Bull's previous name. So there's an existing relationship. MEKIES knows his strengths.
Okay, so maybe buys him some time.
Perhaps. But the underlying situation doesn't change massively. Yuki still really needs to step up his performance consistently to lock down that seat for 2026. There are other drivers in the frame, like Isaac Hadjar, being seriously considered.
Right.
Red Bull really feels like it's at a crossroads, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's a risk, definitely, of losing momentum, key people, maybe even their star driver eventually. But it's also a chance to redefine things. The next 6 to 12 months are critical. MEKIES needs to assess everything and then present that vision, especially to Max.
Fascinating times ahead there. Okay, let's take a quick look just briefly at the next generation. Formula 2, we don't always dive deep into the junior categories here. For really detailed stuff, the F1 Blogs Members Club is often the place for that.
Sure.
But there are definitely some names really making noise on the F1 radar right now from F2.
There are. Alex Dunn, for instance. McLaren Jr. Sources are saying his raw pace is just absolutely mega.
Wow.
Yeah, he's really impressed McLaren. Which is interesting because apparently he was quite close to being dropped from their program last year.
Really? So quite a turnaround. Puts McLaren in an interesting spot too, right? They've got Lando Norris locked down long term, but they obviously want a good junior option waiting.
Exactly. A potential succession plan or just options for the future, especially 26 onwards.
Who else?
Arvid Lindblad, Red Bull Jr., again described as having massive amounts of pace, and significantly, he's just had his super license approved.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and apparently that was petitioned quite early in the year. It shows Red Bull's, well, certainly showed Christian Horner's faith in him and the team's long-term belief. His path to F1 seems maybe a bit clearer than some of the other Red Bull juniors right now.
Interesting. And you always have those sort of veteran benchmarks in F2, don't you? Like Richard Verschoor leading the championship. He's been around a while.
Yeah, exactly. Verschoor's 24. He was actually on Red Bull's books briefly once. This is probably his last F2 shot. And you have guys like Victor Martins, third year now, picked up by Williams. These experienced drivers are really useful benchmarks. They provide the context to judge the speed of the younger guys against.
So how are F1 teams really making the call on these young drivers nowadays? Because it feels like it's more than just looking at the F2 race results, especially with the reverse grids and things sometimes muddying the waters.
Oh, it's much more than that now. That's really shifted. There's a huge emphasis on simulator work, definitely.
Yeah.
Private testing sessions they arrange, and crucially, those FP1 outings in an actual F1 car.
Right, getting them in the real machinery.
Yeah, those are becoming really critical pieces of the puzzle for teams assessing if a driver is ready. You know, think about Kimi Antonelli or Ollie Bierman last year. Their F2 championship positions weren't necessarily spectacular.
But their F1 work.
Exactly. Their work with the F1 teams, in the sim, in tests, in Bierman's case, that race debut, that proved their potential far more effectively, maybe, than just their F2 standings. It shows how important these formal junior programs and the behind-the-scenes evaluations have become. It often tells the teams more than the F2 results alone.
That's a really insightful point. Wow, okay, what an incredible amount we've covered today. Just to recap quickly for everyone listening, we've dived into Ferrari's really high-stakes rear suspension upgrade, hoping to unlock performance, but maybe more importantly, driver confidence. Then Pirelli's tire strategy curveball at Spa, with that C1, C3, C4 split aiming to spice up the race strategies, especially on a sprint weekend.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
And of course, the massive changes at Red Bull, Horner's departure, Lauren Mekies stepping in, the huge challenge he faces, particularly keeping Max Verstappen happy and setting the team's future direction.
A pivotal moment for them.
And we finished with a look at F1's potential future stars coming through F2, like Dunn and Lindblad, and crucially, how teams are evaluating talent now looking way beyond just the junior race results.
Yeah, it's a complex picture. Which actually leads to an interesting thought, doesn't it? As we look at all these big shifts, car design philosophies changing, massive leadership changes, even the way teams find and nurture new talent. It makes you wonder, where's the biggest step forward really made in Formula One today? Is it truly on the track itself? Or is it maybe more in the strategic decisions, the factory work, the simulators behind the scenes?
That is a great question to ponder as we head into this next phase of the season. Is the biggest gain on track or off it? Something for you all to think about. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive. If you enjoyed this and want more F1 analysis, please do subscribe to F1 Blogs. We'll catch you on the next one.